Start with an allocation of up to 5%, and then worry about the other 95% of your portfolio, okay? 5% is not a crazy exposure to the best asymmetric trade opportunity I've ever seen. Somebody is going to start putting Bitcoin on their central bank balance sheet. I'd love it to be Canada. I don't think it will be. That being said, look at what's happening in El Salvador. Look at what's happening in the island of Madeira, where I visited with a bunch of my friends that are here today. There will be nations that adopt Bitcoin. They will be the winners, because Bitcoin, very simply, is freedom, okay? It's hope. I don't want to get too sentimental, but I will tell you for certain, I have never seen a more important technology that's going to change the world. So let's bring it home. I'm going to talk about who Greg Foss is. I'm going to try and convince you why Bitcoin is the best asymmetric investment opportunity I've ever seen. And I want you to remember one thing. If you own 0% of your portfolio in Bitcoin, you're actually taking far more risk than if you have a proper portfolio allocation. That portfolio allocation will change depending on the individual, but remember this, the only wrong exposure to Bitcoin is having 0% exposure, okay? Please remember that. So, who's Greg Foss? I'm a Canadian. I spent 30 years trading credit risk. My primary counterparties were Goldman Sachs of the world, based on Wall Street. But I traded out of Canada, and in 2016, I found Bitcoin. And I wrote a paper on why every single fixed income manager in the world needs to own Bitcoin as portfolio insurance. Now, my last name is Foss, which is pretty friggin' cool, because that stands for free open source software. It's like God put me on this earth to love Bitcoin. So I get to Miami, and I see the Foss Dome. And I'm like, fucking A! And then I read it. Doesn't it actually say Foss do me? Like, seriously. So I'm going to do you guys on Bitcoin. You get it? All right. This is the footwear of the central bankers of the world, okay? We live in a fucking clown show. And your kids are going to suffer from it because of the idiots that are managing monetary policy globally. Why do I say that? Very simply, the debt spiral is unsustainable. It's only grade 11 mathematics. And it's like these retards, you're not supposed to say that, but I gotta call it out for the kids, have not done their grade 11 math. Okay? Horrible but true. They're compromising our future. Don't overthink things. Bitcoin is a similar 13-year-old technology that's going to change the world. Why? Well, first of all, this is a dated slide, but look at your top left-hand corner. That's the total U.S. government debt. 30 trillion at the time of this slide. It's now over 31 trillion. But the relevant number is at the bottom right-hand side. $170 trillion of unfunded liabilities in the United States, one country. It will never be paid back. It is mathematically impossible to raise that amount of money. And every single government in the world has the same challenge, okay? $200 trillion combined of a funded and unfunded debt the U.S. will never pay back. You need to protect against the debt spiral. It's as simple as this. The average coupon on the debt that they are paying right now is about 1.5%. Guess what the Fed is doing today and doing for the rest of the year for sure? Raising interest rates, effectively increasing the cost of their debt so that it's unsustainable. If the USA were a corporation where I spent my life trading junk bonds, it would be rated triple C. One notch away from bankruptcy. Credit default swap market that I traded for corporations, but also trade on countries now. Okay? These are probabilities of default of companies in an open market calculation. You think the USA is risk-free? Why are people buying protection on the USA at a price there that was 16 basis points, which meant it cost you $16,000 a year to insure $10 million of debt over a 5-year period? Look at Canada, people, my home country. Canada has a higher rating, AAA, than the USA, but it trades twice as wide. The market is telling you Canada, a G7 country, is twice as likely to go bankrupt as the USA. Well, listen, it's worse than that. I think Canada, within the next 10 years, could be the first G7 nation to default on their debt. And that default doesn't mean they can't pay it back by printing money. It just means no one will take the money. It's like Venezuela, okay? They were able to print their own money. People ended up pushing that money to the curb. This is a government organization that shows you how much the future interest expense is going to cost you and how much that adds to your deficit. Okay, look at the interest expense increasing over time. Your primary deficit are entitlements and military spending. Think of those as your fixed costs. Your net interest is expanding the debt balloon. Pure mathematics, it's organic expansion because they are not taxing enough to even pay back the interest that's accumulating on the debt. Again, if this was a junk bond company, it would be rated at the bottom of the scale, triple C. But they can print money. The USA will be the last fiat currency to fail, but ultimately all fiats fail. As I said, the most important financial innovation and technology that I have seen in 35 years of managing risk. Okay? Well, don't own Bitcoin. It's volatile. Oh my God, it's gone from 70,000 down to 20,000. This is the volatility of the Dow Jones Industrial Average versus Bitcoin. Bitcoin is now less volatile than the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Don't mistake volatility for risk. Bitcoin is the best upside opportunity I have ever seen. I have a price target on Bitcoin of over $2 million US dollars per Bitcoin. Okay? Very simply, it's because it's based on the simple fact that I think Bitcoin captures 5% of global financial assets. And right now, global financial assets are 900 trillion US dollars. If Bitcoin gets 5% of that, that's $45 trillion. What's 45 trillion divided by 21 million? I'll save you the calculation. It's over $2 million a Bitcoin. And say the market's trading at 20,000 and I have a price target of 2 million in today's dollars. The market is telling me I have a 1% chance of being right. And I'm like, I'm not 100% certain, but I'm way higher than 1%. You guys get how this game is played? It's all about a probability distribution, expected value, trade according to your information, get off zero. I have done okay in my life. I don't need Bitcoin for myself. I need it for my kids. I need it for your kids. I need it for the kids of Africa and less developed nations that somebody is going to start putting Bitcoin on their central bank balance sheet. I'd love it to be Canada. I don't think it will be. That being said, look at what's happening in El Salvador. Look at what's happening in the island of Madeira, where I visited with a bunch of my friends that are here today. There will be nations that adopt Bitcoin. They will be the winners. Start with an allocation of up to 5%, and then worry about the other 95% of your portfolio, okay? 5% is not a crazy exposure to the best asymmetric trade opportunity I've ever seen. Henry Ford, we talked about him. Man, he saw Bitcoin coming 100 years ago. These are brilliant people. Bitcoin can be thought of as digital gold. I, as an engineer, get some flack from physics guys, but I don't care. I think of Bitcoin as digital energy. Ford saw it coming 100 years ago because they can't tell you that fiat is the Ponzi. They can't tell you that the banking system is levered 25 times. Because if you knew that, you would never deposit your money in these risk-free institutions. Because Bitcoin, very simply, is freedom. Okay? It's hope. I don't want to get too sentimental, but I will tell you for certain, I have never seen a more important technology that's going to change the world. So let's bring it home. But God forbid they should buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin's too risky. No. Understand where the risk lies, people. It's with bonds and predominantly credit markets. When the world stops functioning, it's because credit markets seize up. Okay? Well, don't worry. That's the gilt market. We live in the EU.